The Lagos State House of Assembly rejected 17 of the 39 commissioners' nominee sent by Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu for screening. Mudashiru Obasa, Speaker of the House, who presided over the day's sitting, said the confirmation followed rigorous and detailed screening of the nominees by an ad hoc committee led by the Chief Whip of the House, Fatai Mojid. Obasa hailed the committee for its effectiveness and urged the confirmed nominees to always remember that they are in office to serve the people of the state and not individuals. Also, some Islamic clerics had earlier protested against what they tagged alleged lopsidedness in the list of commissioners' nominee submitted to the Assembly by the governor. According to the clerics, 8 Muslims made the governor's 39-man list, while the rest were Christians. Joining us now to discuss the decision of the lawmakers is Nelson Ekujumi, Executive Director, Center for Social and Economic Rights, and Titilokbe Bemisola Akosa, a lawyer and Executive Director of Center for 21st Century Issues. Good morning and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning.
All right, so...
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Welcome. So I'll start with you, Mr. Ekujumi, as you're with us in the studio. First of all, your take on the rejected commissioner's nominee, what the possible reason could be, and is it justified?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. First and foremost, I want a correction to my surname. It's a Jumi, not Jimmy. Ekujumi.
Ekujumi.
Jumi, yeah. Thank you. I will appreciate if that is done. Yes. And with regards to this rejection by the House, I will tell you clearly, like most Lagosians, if not all, we're all shocked that the State House of Assembly could reject, as much as 17, commissioner nominees. Though we consider the fact that it is within their purview, yes, to screen nominees and, report back to Mr. Governor. But be that as it may, a lot of Lagosians and even Nigerians, beyond these shores, have been asking what was the criteria that was used in rejecting somebody like Mr. Gbenga Omotosho, the Commissioner for Information with his pedigree. You look at the Professor Akin Abayomi and, some of that. So people are wondering what is really amiss. We are left shocked. And even till this moment, Lagosians and Nigerians, are still talking about it. They are wondering, what could have gone wrong? Is this more than, that meets the eye? Or is there something they are not telling us? I know for a fact that the House of Assembly is people by, distinguished honorable members, and they represent constituencies. I watched a video of one of the cities where a very close friend of ours, that's Mr. Honorable Kehinde Joseph, spoke glowingly about, the situation, and he was making an appeal to Mr. Governor, to rejig that list. Maybe, because of the issues that have trailed the list at, inception, is what might have propelled, the honorable members to say, Mr. Governor, we are returning these names to you. We know these ones, maybe, we know these ones are eminently qualified, would have done, but for you to appreciate our past, go with this list, please go and do an amendment to the list and come back. Because I know under the law, Mr. Governor or Mr. President has a prerogative, to resend a name that has been dropped, so long as, that name has not been confirmed, found wanting, in law. So for me, it's an embarrassment, But in tandem with democratic, culture, which is about disagreement, which is about debate, which is about negotiations, discussions, I agree, this is democracy at play. It now beholds on, Mr. Governor and the National and the Lagos State House of Assembly to do the needful in terms of, having more productive and robust consultation to come up with, the list and, and get, these nominees confirmed.
All right. Thank you. So you mentioned a few things which I would like for Mr. Akosa to address. Number one, you talked about the fact that this is democracy at play. But do you think there's some form of internal conflict within the Lagos chapter of the APC at play here as well? Because both the Speaker of the House and the Governor, in fact, a majority of the House is from the APC and the Governor is a member of the APC. One would have imagined, especially bearing in mind that a number of these rejected names are returning commissioners. So does this speak more of an issue within the APC in Lagos State? Mr. Akosa.
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. I think we cannot rule out the issue of conflict. We must also remember that people in APC, they are not homogeneous. People have different interests and different issues. And if you remember that this list, there's a lot of criticisms that have trailed it from constituency basis, from people from different local governments. And if you remember, some of them said that we submitted 3 names from different local governments, and some of us cannot see even any person from our local government. So it tells you that some of these lists are not prepared alone by the governor. It is prepared by the government, in part, the party that is in government. And that, of course, people, governor would have gone through so many screening also to look at those who have presented to him. And then maybe he felt in his own wisdom and with all his members that, well, maybe these ones are the ones we should push forward. There are still some other names that are not pushed forward. So, and I think that governor should take his time right now to go back and do more consultation. Because you are all in the same party does not mean that you don't hold different ideas. But it's also good for democracy to thrive, because the House has what we call this check and balance duties. And I think they did it, though this has never happened before. 17 out of over, I think, 39. That is unprecedented. And I think it's an issue that we really need to, the governor has to really look into, and the APC as a party really needs to look into. Because we were like, if we are saying maybe 10%, this is about 40%. And are you telling us that there was no consultation? Or are you telling us there must be a lot of what I call underlying issues, underlying currents that have gone into this for this to have happened? And I'm sure that the House is also saying, go back, redo your consultations, rejig this the list, and let us have a list that represents what we all want.
Okay. Mr. Akosa, let me ask you, you're a lawyer. I'll start with you first. You're a lawyer. What do you think will happen if the governor decides to go back to the State Assembly and present exactly the same number of individuals, maybe take 1 or 2 out and present it? What do you think will happen? And do you think, just one more, do you think that there is a possibility that this is completely political and there is no other way to look at it than to say the only solution is a political solution?
Well, thank you very much. We cannot rule out the issue that it's a political thing. So we are in politics. Politics is part of it, but I cannot tell you that it's entirely, everything is entirely political. The only reason why we cannot tell you why this is happening is because the House have not told us the reason why some of these people are dropped. And I'm sure they will have their reasons. Be that as it may, I think the governor too is a very sensitive person, and he will consult with his immediate constituency because people voted him in. And he also understands what the House stands for. See, we must understand one thing about government. Government is run by cooperation. It is run in such a way that we all understand each other and we speak the same language so that there will be cohesion and there will be harmony. Nobody wants conflict in government in such a way that it will deter progress. So I'm sure Mr. Governor is a very sensible person. If this has happened, I'm sure that the House have dug deep into the past and things like that. But for some of us who knows the returning, some of these returning commissioners, we have been in Lagos. We have seen how some of them have worked. Just like Mr. Nestle have said, we have seen what Professor Abayomi has done. We have seen what Omotosho have done. We have seen what Ekujumi has done. We have seen what these ones that are returning have done. See, these are people we know that they have performed and they can still perform.
Okay.
But when it comes to politics, there are other equations that may go into it.
Okay, I was just going to ask you, Nelson Ekujumi, you're very much on ground. You understand the politics of Lagos. So the way this has been done is that there is a vote that it was put to. So some people who are alleging that this is a power tussle, and I don't know, but some people are alleging that it's a power tussle between the Speaker, Obasa, and the governor, that there's a rift between them. But for it to stand at all, it means that the entire National Assembly has got to vote in support. So what do you say about the dynamics that would have made the State Assembly with all the members, some of them that you would expect will be in the camp of the governor, to still support a decision like this one?
Well, I think I wouldn't know if it's a part or so between the governor and the speaker. But the fact is that, Mr. Governor's constituency permits the entire states. The legislators' constituency permits only where they are elected from. So there's that, likelihood of there to be a conflict between, those interests. So Mr. Governor could have been, in his wisdom, because he has the prerogative to submit that list, could have been, propelled more by, state interest than looking at, constituency interest. And what the legislators have done is to highlight the importance of the constituency. Because like we say, the legislator is closer, more to the people because he has a constituency office in his locality. He lives there. He went to them to solicit their vote. And even, he must have made some promises to his constituencies that, look, this is what I'll get for us, from the executive or from the government. And if this has played out, it, tells us clearly that there is need for more synergy between the executive and the legislators. I don't want to believe that, the Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Obasa, could have eroded that eminent house, to think in one direction. These are persons from different constituencies, and in their constituencies, like we say in Yoruba language, they have the old and they have the young. And, a society is made up of, these different segments, of beings. So I want to believe that what this has shown clearly is that there's need for more synergy, that, there's a lacuna in communication between the executive and the legislature. And, this issue has, propelled the need for them to go and have a rethink on their relationship, so that when things like this come up, the legislators will quickly, notify the executive, and they will do the needful, and we don't have to see this in the public space. Because if they had done it cleanly within, we wouldn't be here talking about rejection. All the nominees would have gone.
No, but let's call it spade a spade. A lot of people say this is just pure politicking going on. That's the feedback. Because if these people were good enough to scale through the screening when they were first made commissioners, why is it now? Why is it that they have a lot of undercurrents going on? And why is it that when the chief whip was interviewed on a TV platform, TVC, the phone line cut when they asked him one question, and they asked him what was the reason why the committee that screened them, what did they see against them? He couldn't talk. He kept on pushing it back to the committee, and the phone line cut. So what are you going to say as regards this, that it is just pure politicking going on, and it could be detrimental for the APC in Lagos, because the argument is a house divided against itself will not stand. So isn't it time for the APC to watch it?
No, absolutely. We are in a democracy, and democracy is all about politics. And when we are talking about politics in democracy, we should be discussing developmental politics rather than retrogressive politics. The committee, the House, in line with its mandate, statutorily set up a committee to perform the function of, screening the commissioner nominees. And, that committee did its work and, sent it back to the House. And, you not expect that what played out in the House, on the day of the confirmation was just that they came straight to the public, to the plenary, and they must have had other consultations. But be that as it may, I think this should be a wake-up call that, whatever be the politicking, the greater interest, the collective interest of the people of Lagos State should subsume whatever politicking they are playing. Because we cannot run away from the fact that...
You think they're taking the governor for a ride?
I don't think so. Like I said earlier...
Because a lot of people have argued that they're just taking the governor for a ride because he's a patient person with them. That if he were to be other governor
maybe I should weigh
and
in
being
here.
assertive, they would not do this to the governor.
I think
after you, I'll allow you weigh in, man.
I think what this has shown once again is that those who have always lampooned the legislators as a rubber stamp, I hope they can now hit their words. Because what the Lagos State House of Assembly has done is to assert, its independence, its authority. But we must recognize that democracy involves, or a democratic government has three arms: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. So in no way must we assume that one arm of government is superior and it can, ride roughshod over another arm. So I want to believe that what the legislators have done is to draw the attention of Mr. Governor to their complaint. I don't want to see it as, taking the governor for a ride, because don't forget, the legislators got their mandate from the people, just like Mr. Governor did. So I want to believe that what they have done is to say, Mr. Governor, we are not, too comfortable with, the steps you have taken, and we are going to send our message to you in a public space, which shouldn't be. One would have expected them to have done it in an in-house way. Because in politics, they
are of the same party.
Yes,
so why publicly embarrass the governor? That's what they're saying.
It's because in a democracy, it's about discussion, nobody is a zombie. It's not a military command structure where once an officer gives a command, everybody, even in the cabinet of the president, reports are filtered out that when he was governor of Lagos State, before taking decisions, they have robust debate. The former vice president, Professor Yemi Shibaju, came out publicly and said that at times when they have ESCO meetings, the governor will be going on one way, the ESCO members will say, no, Mr. Governor.
Why are these 17 people?
Well, like we have rightly pointed out. Hold on, we have rightly pointed out. We don't have the facts. But if it is about competence, there are some persons on that list that should never have been rejected.
All right,
but it is all politics.
Let's move to her. So it's all politics. What's your take on this, ma? Some people are arguing that is the governor not being taken for a ride here?
Yeah, you see, let me tell you, in politics, we must remember that we are running a democracy. And in a democracy, there is no absolute power anywhere. Even outside democracy, I will tell you, there is no absolute power. Wherever you think you have absolute power, there are natural checks and balances that will balance it
But
up.
the Constitution says the Nigerian president is sort of like a monarchy. Lagos? Ma, the Constitution of Nigeria...
Who said so?
The Constitution
I don't know the Constitution you are reading.
Hang on a minute, ma.
But the Constitution of Nigeria that I know...
Hang on a minute, ma.
That I understand does not talk about monarchy.
Hang on a minute, ma. The Constitution of Nigeria plays the leader of the country as having monarchical powers. And that's why when you see it at display, everything is at the pleasure of the presidency. So this talk about separation of powers, why don't you humor me even further? If there was so much separation of powers, why are state governors being the one to build complexes for judiciary officials? Are they not supposed to have pure separation of power? Why are we acting like we don't know how things work in this country? Humor me and tell me about separation of powers, ma.
Okay. What I want to let you know is that there's nothing like the word monarchy in Nigeria's constitution. You must take that as number one. And number two, there is what we call checks and balances, which is embedded in Nigeria constitution. You can't tell me that it is not there. And that is where we have the three arms of government with different functions. And there's no way these three arms will perform this function in a separate manner without having a form of cooperation so that we can have progress. So there is not watertight separation of power. We must understand that these are elementary things that were taught even in secondary school up to the university. And we are not talking about theory anymore. This is practical. These are people in the same party and they are occupying the different arms of government. And you remember, because they are in the same party, they are not enemies. So when you're talking about monarchy, it is not in Nigeria's constitution. But But if we look at powers that have been given onto the judiciary, and then remember, we are running a federal constitution. And within a federal constitution, when you talked about the judiciary, the state has its own judiciary. They take care of the judges in their states. So you won't say a state does not have the power to build houses for its judges in its state. It will be something strange if you see a state government building houses for a judge at the federal high court. So at the federal level, it is the government that builds that. So understand this. It is not a monarchical type of government. It is not written in our constitution at all.
I didn't say it's monarchical. I said the outlook, the kind of powers the president assumes. And that's why a lot of court orders are violated and other components in this power sharing thing we do, these various stages of government, cannot apply to the executive. We cannot deceive ourselves that the executive looms large in the order of things. But
then, we have seen what played out in Lagos.
All right, ma, let me
but the argument
is... The House of Assemblies has shown to us that there's a checks and balances.
The argument is this is political. And that's why I asked, why the 17 people? If you are saying...
Okay.
All right. Let me come in here. Let me come in.
Go ahead. No, let her speak, please. Go ahead. Yes.
So we have a list of, I think, over 30 people. They are supposed to do screening. And let me tell you what can at times go into screening. They will check your background. They can look at your social media handles. They can look at some of the transactions you have done before. They can look at it to be ensured that the kind of person we are putting in this space is somebody that can be entrusted with public powers and institutions and will deliver. And now, the reason why I cannot say there was a kind of a favoritism is because the returning ones are there. The new ones are there. At least I know some of the new ones that are there. Some of them are not even within the party structure. Some of them are technocrats on their own who have achieved so well in their own calling. And they felt that if they could bring that kind of capacity into government, they would do well. I know a few of them, and they were rejected. So the other question is, after that, looking at the fact that you are capable, you have capabilities, then we have to look at your background also. So there are lots of people who have capacity, but then there could be some kind of a commerce in terms of the way they have used their life, done their things. So I don't know what has gone into that with the House of Assembly, but I tell you that people will do screening, even up to your family level and so many things before you are now taken and accepted, approved, and then you become a commissioner. See, these things are not things that we know everything about. We don't even have all the facts. But whatever we see that has happened, this is what we are responding to.
Okay.
Maybe the House should have given us a reason why each of them have been rejected. Then we'll be able to situate this properly and discuss it properly.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It's because they haven't given a reason. Hence, it gives room for speculations. And that's why there are speculations that perhaps there are internal conflicts. And so it behoves on the House to give reasons why. I mean, at the federal level, they said they had to go through other screening, security screening, hence 3 names were exempted from being approved. But again, you also said something which I wanted to point out, that because they're in the same party means that they are friendly. We know of the G5 governors. Being in the same party does not always mean that you are friendly.
That's not true. That's not
true. All right,
true.
let me ask my next question.
When I started talking, people in APC, they are not homogeneous people. They don't have the same interests.
No, I was speaking to your last comment.
Even if you look at we women, we don't have the same interests.
Thank you so much.
Go on.
Yes, I was speaking to your last comment. You did mention it in the last time that they're in the same party, so it means they're on good terms. But let me come to you with regards to another aspect of what I'd introduced earlier, with regards to some Muslim clerics who are unhappy about the fact that 8 out of 39 of these nominees are Muslims. So it means that a huge majority of the nominees are Christians. Again, because we don't have a reason, could this be one of the reasons why they didn't accept all these nominees? And 2, and maybe for Mr. Ekujumi, I'll come to you for this one, is that, what's your take on that? Should that be a factor? Bear in mind, the same APC government pushed the same faith ticket and said it's no longer about religious beliefs or leanings, it's more about competence. Why is this coming up in Lagos State then? I'll start with you, Mr. Akosa, and then I'll come to Mr. Ekujumi.
Yes, the issue of religion could be one of the reasons. whether we like it or not. And in politics, people can bring in all sorts of interest on the table if they want to make sure that things are done their own way. But it's so unfortunate that at this point in Lagos, we'll be looking at religion. Honestly, I have to admit that. Because we should not only look at competence, we also look at character and the way people have moved on in their life up to the stage that they want to become somebody who wants to be in the public space. So for me, it is unfortunate that at this stage that some people are talking about religion. Yeah, be that as it may, just like in my own organization where we discuss about inclusion, we have to look at inclusion. We have to look at voice. Voice issues and inclusion issues will now enable us to look at what people are saying. Yes, it's unfortunate that they are talking about religion, but yes, should we look at what they are saying and see where we can mend fences and ensure that we have a progressive government? Because I don't think any government will progress with internal conflicts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ekujumi, your take on this. So she's mentioned that perhaps this is possibly a reason why those names are rejected, not confirmed. But also, is there a problem with that? Because the APC pushed that when it comes to it, Nigerians should be more focused on competence rather than religious belief.
Yes, she rightly said, and we all know, the reasons have not been, made public by the Lagos State House of Assembly. But the fact remains that for some of us, the reality of our situation, we cannot run away from it. That religion and ethnicity plays a great role in our public life. But because of the background some of us have, we have always tried, to beat that to the back burner. That some persons have come up to say it's because of religious, interests. Don't forget, these legislators represent whether you are a Muslim or a Christian or a traditional worshipper or somebody of no faith. So it is imperative on them, to aggregate this interest. But as I sit here, I can tell you for free that I, as a person, Nelson Ekujumi, if you bring anybody before me, the last thing I will ever ask of you is he a XY worshipper? Because I believe only in God. I don't believe in one religion is superior or one religion is the gateway, to paradise or to meet our maker. So for me, it could not be far-fetched that could have been the reason. And when you say the APC pushed the issue of competence, don't forget the issue on ground is not about APC. It's about, politics. And politics could come in different flavors, different shapes.
Yeah, but the ideology is APC though, because it's an APC government.
The State House of Assembly has 38 APC members and 2, LP members. Yeah. That is the fact.
That's a landslide.
It's a fact, even if it's a landslide. The beauty of democracy is that while the majority will have their way, you should not tell the minority to keep quiet, that they should not talk. We shouldn't do that.
All right.
All right. Let me, Rufai wanted to.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I was going to ask you, if you have a situation like we have now, where out of the 17 that you have that have been discarded or not confirmed.
Not confirmed, yeah.
It's
not
said,
confirmed is better word.
Not confirmed. So out of the 17, you've got 15 of them said to be Christian. Said, in quotes, because you don't know the religion of a man until he confesses it. The fact that he wrote Christianity on a form does not mean he's a Christian. It's just that that's what he claims, but that's a different debate. Now, in view of that, do you think religion is beginning to play a major role in Lagos? And let me ask you this. A lot of people have alleged that the governor is loyal to the party, is a strong party man, to the point where some people claimed that his association with Asiwaju was so tight that they actually wanted to make it difficult for him to win the last election. And if he is that tight with Asiwaju and so close to the party, how could members of the party, 38 of them in the State Assembly, do something that looks like it was designed to embarrass him?
Well, the truth of the matter is that, the religion has always played a critical role in our public life. You look at our last elections, religion was a key factor. So talking about the governor, yes, the governor is a deep party man, is a lawyer party man. But, like I stated earlier on, the party is peopled by persons of different interests who are representing constituencies. A lot of the legislators are not there on their own mandate. They are there on the mandate of the people. And it behoves on them, whatever they are doing, that they should take, the interests of the people they are representing uppermost, in whatever actions they are taking. So, looking at what has played out, even when Asiwaju was, the governor before becoming president, and I'm sure because of the type of person Asiwaju is, as an intellectually savvy person who loves debate on issues, the governor has brought this issue to the House. And the House, in their wisdom, because the status of assembly members are not aides of Mr. Governor. They are elected representatives of the people, just like Mr. Governor.
And
except
members of his party.
Yes, because they are members of the party. For example, if I was an army officer, if I give a directive in the Nigerian army today, as a general, every military officer below my rank will comply. But as a politician, just like we have in the Hausa part of this country, where some of us have relationship with, we have this saying in Hausa land that to lead 100 cows, you need just look at the herdsman. He uses just one stick. Once he points it in a direction, all the cows goes in that direction. But to lead 5 human beings, you need 5 sticks. That is the complexity of the human nature. So you won't say because these are members of the party. A lot of persons before, if you join a party, if you become a member of a party, one of the first rules is that your interest, you must subsume it into the party's interest. But even if you have other interests outside of the party, you have to carry out a consultation and get a consensus to drive down your agenda and let it become the agenda of the party. So what we are saying is that what has transpired shows that all is not well in the relationship between the executive and it's there in the public space. So it is now left for the gladiators to go back to the drawing board and come out and show the picture that look, we in this our house, we are not zombies. All of us have our brains and we are thinking, and we engage ourselves on issues. We will not say, even in my house when I was growing up as a child, which I'm also suffering now. When my father says this way, I'll say, Daddy, no. Why are you taking me on this route?
So your own children are doing
the same to me.
Okay, let me very quickly ask Mr. Akosa then, in terms of where we go from here, where do we go from here? Let's look for a solution now, because the concern of a lot of people is this could turn into a battle royale, and it could very easily be turned into something that is all about religion. So if it is turned into something that looks like it's all about religion, then we have a serious problem in Lagos. And Lagos is a big part of Nigeria, a major player in the politics of Nigeria. So what would you say when some people are already alleging that out of the 17, there is 15 of them that are Christians? And some pastors will be concerned that this is all about a war against Christians in Lagos. What would you be advising them in terms of a way forward?
Yeah, before I give my word of advice, it's very important that we understand that the complexities and dynamics that go into winning a general election is different from that kind of dynamics that will play out after election has been won. That is very, very critical here. The party joins hands to make sure that they win the election. Now it is time for us to look at who occupies what decision. Interests come to play. And let me tell you, in Nigeria, people throw all sorts of power into that process to make sure that they have an upper hand. And people are not playing the religious card. And let me tell you one thing, the dangers here is that just 2 days ago, how many days ago, we did the CSER Day. The CSER people will also say we need our representative in this government.
Oh, yes.
And that is where some of these things will lead us to.
They deserve it, don't they?
If we don't critically nip it in the bud. And the CSER people, let me tell you, they have their rights too,
yes,
to have their representative in government. Yes. And that's one thing for us. A lot of us who are from the development world, we understand what dissent means. And if we have even one voice saying no, we will sit down and hear you out. If you go to the UN, they normally do things by consensus. If one person say no, they won't progress. They will sit down until that person agrees. So what I believe that APC will do is to go back to their consultation room. Try to see how they balance the interest, consult widely, and come out with a better list that represents the interest of everybody. It's going to be in our own interest. We cannot forge ahead with conflict. We cannot forge ahead with internal wranglings. It will not help us. It will not even help the nation. Because let me tell you, Lagos State is a forward-looking state. We don't care about what happens in most of these things. But now that they are throwing in the spanner of religion, it is telling us that there is danger ahead and we need to take care of it right now.
Barrister, one other thing you also missed is that there's also something called a veto power in the United Nations. So it's not all consensus. If you go to the UN Security Council, Russia has a veto. And there's a veto power, and it's put there for specific
the only place where
reason.
You can.
So,
that's the only place you can have veto power.
So that's just to correct your fact.
In the real assemblies, in the real assemblies of head of state, there is no veto power.
So I just
of the decisions.
I just corrected your fact.
Power.
Security Council, you have a veto power there, so you should also know that. And that's why the talk has been on as regards the executive and the power it has here. All of this can be traced back to the hitherto squabble between the governor and Mr. Obasa. Is this an extension of that now? Is this payback time? Is it that the APC cannot sort out its internal conundrum? And for the point I made earlier, the executive, theoretically in the Constitution, yes, separation of powers exists, but practically, it does not exist. If it does, with all the court orders the executive breaks in this country, I'm sure that we should have held them accountable now, but it doesn't.
No, I disagree with you.
So that's what I am saying on ground as regards the executive, and that's the kind of democracy we are building. You can disagree with me all you want.
Yes.
But the practical reality of the democracy we have built is evident in all of our lives.
But the practical reality is that governors or presidents under law can be impeached. That's not absolute.
How many have been impeached in Nigeria?
Well, if we have not exercised, it does not mean it doesn't exist. And this is what
How many have been impeached?
No, if something exists in reality, and we have not traveled that route, it does not mean it does not exist. There's that window for the legislature.
Listen, I'm a man of practical expression.
Absolutely. So am I.
So based on the practicality of that, that's why this conundrum is there.
No, the reason why this conundrum is there is because in a democracy, like we said, while the majority will have their way, the minority must have their say. You can't beat a child and stop the child and say the child should not cry.
Who's the child they are beating?
No, this is just an idiom. What I'm saying in this case is that in a democracy, no matter how little you are in an arm of government, you are as important as the number one man in another arm of government. Nobody should be looked at as, because you are, and that is the irony of our democracy today, that a lot of times we downplay the essence of the legislature. The legislature is the most important arm in a democracy.
But that's not the reality on ground.
Says who? if the house does not approve your appropriation, how does it become a law? Without the legislature, you cannot make laws.
We'll wrap up very shortly, but very quickly, what's the way forward?
What's
the way forward? I ask because, we've talked about the legislature, and honestly, on textbook, what you're saying is ideal, but we know that that's not how.
That's not what happened practically.
Well, we are hoping it to get there. We're hoping it to get there. So the question is, what's the way forward? What should the governor do? And do you think, if he does, send back, Kay had asked that question earlier, the same names, do you think there's an opportunity for them to come to some form of agreement? Because the Lagos APC have said that, Chief Cornelius Ojelabi had said that they were going to wade into this matter. So what do you think is going to happen?
Well, thank you very much. First and foremost, we must recognize that democracy is a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. It's a journey. Democracy is not the destination. It's the vehicle through which we got to our destination. Talking about the issue at hand, I'm happy you said the APC state chairman, Chief Apostle Cornelius Ojelabi has, promised to wade in. But the truth of the matter is that there is need for, the House as well as the executive led by Mr. Governor, to go back to the drawing board and, cross their I's and dot their T's. But as it is, Lagosians are still asking, what are the reasons for refusing, professionals who have performed creditably, like Mr. Gbenga Motosho, like Professor Ake Abayomi? People cannot just rationalize it. So the onus is now, we are calling on the governor to represent some of these names, and in juggling the names, we expect, and we are appealing to the State House of Assembly to please, whatever be the interest, they should subsume it under the collective interest for a better, progressive and prosperous Lagos State.
Thank you very much. We're out of time now, but thank you to Ms. Akosa for your time this morning, and of course Mr. Ekujumi for your time this morning. We look forward to the issues being sorted here in Lagos State and beyond.